Alexander the Great's decade-long campaign from Greece to India was more than a military conquest. It was a relentless journey to forge an empire that spanned continents. Between 334 and 324 BCE, Alexander led his Macedonian and Greek soldiers across treacherous lands, defeating formidable enemies and transforming the known world. His war was not merely for power but for a legacy that would transcend him. A new world where Greek and Eastern cultures merged, and where the mark of his ambition would endure for centuries. Chapter 1: The Call to Arms. In 334 BCE, Alexander, a young king of Macedonia, crossed into Asia Minor with a modest force of 35,000 soldiers, driven by an inherited dream. His father, King Philip II, had united Greece and set his sights on the Persian Empire, the world's greatest superpower. But it was Alexander who would fulfill this vision, seeing himself as the chosen one to lead Greece into a new era. His army was well-trained and highly disciplined, a product of Philip's reforms and Alexander's own relentless preparation. As they crossed the Hellespont, Alexander threw a spear into Persian soil, symbolizing his intention to claim Asia as his own. The Battle of the Granicus marked the beginning of Alexander's 10-year war, with his troops defeating the Persian satraps and securing a foothold in Asia Minor. This victory set the tone for his campaign, showcasing his boldness and his ability to inspire his men. But as Alexander moved deeper into Persian territory, he would face obstacles that required more than strength. They would test his resilience, ingenuity, and his resolve to create an empire. Chapter 2: The Campaign Against Persia. As Alexander moved through Asia Minor, he liberated Greek cities under Persian control, portraying himself as a liberator, not a conqueror. He introduced democratic governments and abolished local tyrants, securing loyalty and winning admiration across the region. The people began to see him as a unifier, a leader who transcended traditional boundaries. In 333 BCE, Alexander encountered Darius III, the Persian king, for the first time at the Battle of Issus. Although heavily outnumbered, Alexander's tactics and leadership won the day, forcing Darius to flee and leaving his family behind as captives. Alexander treated them with respect, securing his reputation as a noble conqueror and cementing his status as both a warrior and a ruler of unprecedented grace. Darius's escape left the Persian Empire vulnerable, and Alexander seized this opportunity. He moved south, capturing the strategic port cities of Phoenicia and laying siege to Tyre. This famously fortified island city tested Alexander's resourcefulness, as his army built a causeway to bridge the gap between the mainland and the island, eventually breaking through Tyre's defenses. With the fall of Tyre and subsequent victories in Gaza and Egypt, Alexander's control of the eastern Mediterranean was absolute. Chapter 3: The Foundation of Alexandria. In Egypt, Alexander was welcomed as a liberator from Persian rule and crowned as pharaoh. At the mouth of the Nile, he founded Alexandria, a city that would become a lasting testament to his vision. Alexandria was designed to be a center of knowledge, commerce, and cultural exchange, a symbol of the merging of Greek and Egyptian worlds. Here, Alexander consulted the oracle of Ammonius at Siwa, who confirmed his divine lineage, a title that bolstered his authority and fueled his ambition. Alexandria quickly became a cultural melting pot, attracting scholars, artists, and merchants from across his empire. The city's famous library and museum would later make it the intellectual heart of the Hellenistic world, preserving Greek, Egyptian, and Eastern knowledge. Alexandria embodied Alexander's goal of creating a unified world, and its influence would extend far beyond his lifetime. Chapter 4: The Battle of Gaugamela and the Fall of Persia. With Egypt secure, Alexander turned his focus eastward to the heart of the Persian Empire. In 331 BCE, he confronted Darius again at the Battle of Gaugamela, near modern-day Iraq. Darius had gathered a vast army, but Alexander's strategic genius once again prevailed. Using a combination of oblique tactics and feigned retreats, Alexander's smaller force penetrated the Persian lines, striking directly at Darius, who fled the battlefield. Gaugamela marked the end of the Achaemenid Empire and cemented Alexander's control over Persia. Cities like Babylon and Susa welcomed him, and he entered Persepolis, the symbolic heart of Persian power. In a controversial act, Alexander allowed Persepolis to be burned, a symbolic act of revenge for the Persian invasions of Greece. The fall of Persepolis was a clear message. The old Persian Empire was gone, and a new Hellenistic order was emerging. Chapter 5. Into Central Asia. Alexander now turned his attention to the lands beyond Persia. His campaign through Central Asia was one of his most challenging, facing fierce resistance from local tribes, harsh winters, and difficult terrain. Alexander's forces pushed through modern-day Afghanistan and Uzbekistan, regions that resisted foreign rule. His soldiers faced guerrilla warfare and ambushes, testing their endurance and loyalty to their leader. During this phase, Alexander adopted a policy of cultural integration, marrying Roxana, a Bactrian noblewoman, and encouraging his officers to marry local women. His marriage to Roxana was not only a symbol of unity but also a political strategy to secure the loyalty of local leaders. Alexander's vision for his empire was evolving from one of conquest to one of lasting unity, blending Greek and local customs into a shared identity. Chapter 6. The Indian Campaign and the Battle of the Hydaspes. By 327 BCE, Alexander had reached the borders of India. He encountered a rich and powerful land, with dense jungles, monsoon rains, and rulers who were as determined as he was. His most formidable challenge in India came at the Hydaspes River, where he faced King Porus, whose army included war elephants, an unknown and terrifying sight to the Macedonians. Despite these challenges, Alexander's strategic acumen secured victory, and he treated the defeated Porus with respect, allowing him to retain his kingdom. The Indian campaign was a turning point for Alexander's army. His men, exhausted by years of marching and fighting, grew weary. After the battle at the Hyphasis River, they refused to march any further, prompting Alexander to turn back. Though disappointed, he understood his men's fatigue and held a grand ceremony marking the edge of their conquest, symbolizing that they had reached the limits of the known world. Chapter 7. The grueling march back through the Gedrosian Desert. Alexander's return journey marked one of the most grueling phases of his 10-year war. Instead of retracing his steps, he chose to lead his men through the treacherous Gedrosian Desert, hoping to achieve a new feat of endurance. The journey proved brutal, with extreme heat, scarce water, and food shortages taking a heavy toll on his troops. Many soldiers perished, and Alexander's own strength was tested to its limits. The march through the Gedrosian Desert solidified Alexander's bond with his men, as he shared in their suffering, refusing special treatment and personally helping with their burdens. When they finally emerged from the desert, Alexander's army had been reduced, but their loyalty to him was unbreakable. Chapter 8. Building a Unified Empire. Returning to Babylon, Alexander set out to consolidate his empire. He envisioned a unified world where Greek and Eastern cultures would merge, creating a new Hellenistic civilization. He held mass weddings, uniting thousands of his soldiers with Persian and Median women, symbolizing the cultural fusion he had worked to achieve. He encouraged the spread of Greek language, education, and customs, but also respected local traditions, aiming for a multicultural empire bound by shared values and mutual respect. Alexander's policies were met with mixed reactions. Some of his Macedonian officers resented his adoption of Persian customs and his promotion of non-Greeks to high positions. Tensions grew, and Alexander faced challenges to his authority from within his ranks. However, he remained committed to his vision, believing that a truly lasting empire could only be built on a foundation of unity. Chapter 9. The Final Days and the Unfinished Dream. In 323 BCE, Alexander fell ill in Babylon and died at the age of 32, leaving behind an empire that stretched from Greece to India. With no clear successor, his generals divided his territories, leading to the fragmentation of his empire. Despite his sudden death, the impact of his 10-year war endured. Alexander's journey had transformed the ancient world, spreading Greek culture across the Middle East, Egypt, and Asia, and fostering a fusion of ideas, art, and knowledge that would influence civilizations for centuries. The Hellenistic kingdoms that emerged from his empire continued his legacy of cultural exchange and innovation. Epilogue. Alexander's lasting legacy. Alexander's 10-year war changed the course of history. His empire, though short-lived, became a foundation for the Hellenistic period, an era that saw unparalleled advancements in science, art, philosophy, and trade. His cities, especially Alexandria in Egypt, became centers of learning and cultural synthesis, attracting scholars and artists from around the world. Alexander's ambition to unify diverse cultures laid the groundwork for a new world order, one in which Greek, Egyptian, Persian, and Indian traditions coexisted and influenced each other. His 10-year war was more than a military conquest. It was a catalyst for a global exchange that shaped the development of Western and Eastern civilizations alike.